I'll start off. Obviously, I want to start off by giving my thoughts and prayers to Jeff Dickerson's family and his son Parker. Obviously, it's a tough day for all of us. We know how much Jeff meant to all of us. We all have different stories, with him. And for me, I was able to have 4 good years, being able to learn who he is as a person and get to hear his stories. And when I think about Jeff, I think about, how positive he was, which, we all talk about. He's always glass half full. With me, he was always very supportive and respectful, which, is pretty neat in this day and age to have somebody like that from the very start. And I appreciated that. I think about the good thoughts I have with him, and I think back to this past draft, him as a prognosticator. I mean, I remember him texting me a couple of days before the draft and talking about all these predictions of who we may draft and may not draft. And he said he's going to go ahead and say that we're going to draft Tevin Jenkins. And it was crazy, that ended up happening. But he didn't care about what anybody else was saying. That's what he predicted. And what do you know? So he never ended up bragging to me about that, which is just kind of who he is. But I think he always knew that I knew. So he's positive. He's a prognosticator. And the last thing is, how proud he was of his son, Parker. I go back to thinking of all the stories of the conversations before we'd ever talk football. It was always about, the baseball tournament that he was playing, or, the football game. And it's just who he was. So, he's super proud. And I think that's, we know that. And then I'll also talk about Coach John Madden. I didn't know Coach Madden at all either, or not either, but I didn't know him. But I knew a lot of them through Coach Reed, who knew him pretty well. Obviously an icon, and being a head coach for so long, it's crazy. Yesterday's day was emotional for a lot of people, and so I think of Coach Madden, and growing up was my time of listening to him as a commentator and just all the stuff he did. And so he lived a heck of a life. So, with that, that's I wanted to start off with that and just let, Jeff's family know that we're thinking about him and we're here for him. Football wise, on the field, as far as us and the Bears, I'll start off by just, I know there'll be questions about the quarterbacks. So Justin and Andy will both be out there today at practice. We'll see how much capacity for each as we get out there. They are still both working through, where they're at. Health will always dictate where they're at and how they go. So we'll monitor that. They are both improving, which is good. And then it's also nice, having Nick, who's fully healthy after the game as well. So we'll work through that all week long. We'll keep you up to date as to how that goes with them each day. And other than that, I think that's it for injuries, unless you guys have anything, and I'll go ahead and open it up.
First question, Dan Weeder.
Hey, Matt, I've got two for you. First, with Jeff, first of all, thank you for expressing those sentiments. I'm just curious, being of a similar age, being a proud dad yourself, being a dedicated professional, I'm just curious how you processed yesterday the news and just the lasting impact that Jeff had.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, it impacts you because, like you said, similar age. I just leave it at that. It's tough.
Then as far as your quarterback situation for the week, how do you go about figuring out plan A, plan B, and plan C? And I guess by the end of tonight, what do you want to kind of have known from today's work?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, these guys that we've been going through that here the last couple of, really days and last week, going through just trying to figure out when you game plan where you're at. And I think communication with Justin, communication with Andy, communication with Nick, communication with Ryan, Flip, Bill, everybody. We all have to be open and honest with each other, where they're at. The medical is going to, take over this thing, and it's going to dictate where they're at. And then the trust in knowing where they say they're at, and then, so we got to work through each day when they're out there, what's their pain level, and where they're at. And then we just go off of that. And then we got to, based off of who it is and how it goes, have an idea. And then when we do, we got to go with it, and those, whoever it is, they got to be ready to go. But like I said, Dan, we've said from the beginning that we're always going to put the person's health number one, and then we kind of go from there.
Next question, Pat Finley.
Hi, Matt. All of this seems insignificant, but I have to ask anyway. With Justin and with all three of your quarterbacks in practice today, how do you distribute snaps? Like, is Justin going with the ones? Does Nick get a little more action, just given that he's the only one who's not a little banged up? How do you figure that out?
Well, I would say the fact that Nick is not banged up, similar to last week, we got to, at some point as we go through this, figure out who it's going to be. And then, but we need a little bit of time, and then for them to get out there too, and see what they can and can't do, And so once we know that, it'll help us out with distributing the reps to the quarterbacks. I think we all saw what Nick was able to do last week with limited reps, winning a football game. And he had that's the luxury we have of having him, with the depth we have. So we'll kind of work through that and see. And again, it's going to come down to Justin and Andy explaining to us how they feel with Andre, and then with their position coaches. And then we got to, if there's a mixture of both, until we know. And then once we do know and we have a clear picture, then we'll go ahead and let everybody know, let them know, and get ready to go out and do what we need to do.
You had talked about how Monday and Tuesday were going to be important for Justin. What's your understanding of how he feels today as opposed to when you told us that the other day?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely getting better. But until we actually get out and do football stuff, like full bore plays, individual drills, and he can really test it out, I think that'll be important in letting us know where he's at.
Next question, Brad Biggs.
Hey, Matt, will Tevin Jenkins be able to practice today? And then I saw that you placed Tease Tabor on IR. Can you, what was the specific nature of his injury?
Yeah, so Tease we did put on IR, and he's got he has an ankle injury that happened on that special teams play. So it's unfortunate for him. I thought he was really doing well for us, and just love his attitude and everything. And then we will have Tevin out there today, which would be great. So that's good. And then we'll work through, like we do, we'll work through all the depth chart stuff and where we're at with guys and different health situations of where they're at.
Next question, Mark Potash.
Hey, Matt. Hall's performance against Seattle kind of continued a trend of veteran quarterbacks coming in at a moment's notice and really doing well in your offense. I know experience matters in every NFL offense, but is there extra value in this offense of experience? Is there some reason why, rookies, it kind of takes even a longer time, but veterans just seem to, the more experience they have, the better they are at it. Is there something different about your offense that makes that happen?
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that it definitely helps because if you're a veteran, you've seen more defenses, so you know how to fit what we're doing offensively into what they're doing defensively. And then it just depends on who the vet is and what experiences they've had. And you also look at a guy like Nick and the background that he has in this offense, kind of knowing where the bones are buried in specific plays and things that he likes in his strength. And then you have Andy, who, conceptually we have some things too that we've put in the last couple of years with what Bill has done. So there's a comfort level there. And then you have Justin, who's new, not only to the offense, but he's new to the speed of the game. So I would say, yeah, it helps out a little bit, but that's for most rookies as you go through it, right, depending on the offense, the terminology and schematics, and then really your teammates around you and how all that goes. And so that's part of the growth process and the speed level of how that works from one rookie to the next.
And on the flip side, is there something about your offense that makes it tough for a rookie to learn? I mean, are there nuances to it that just make it a little bit longer of a learning curve for guys like whether it's Fields, Trubisky, whoever?
I don't think so. I think that this offense has been around for a long time, and you guys have seen, it does change over time. It's the roots of it is the West Coast offense of the true, back in the day, the flat backs and the San Francisco 49ers, Green Bay Packers, and then, in Philadelphia when we were together. But it's evolved over time, and you saw, even me coming from Kansas City, they're evolving to a different type as well. And so I think that's part of the evolution. So it's our job to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're working towards the strength of our players, but then they got to do what they can to make sure that, they're executing. If one of your questions is it a more detailed offense of maybe words and that sort of thing, for sure, especially versus what college does right now with some of the no huddle. But we've actually cut that down quite a bit, which I think our players would agree with some. Now, there's still some long ones, but we've cut it down some.
Next question, Mike Berman.
Hey, Matt, thanks for your kind words about JD off the top.
No problem.
As it relates to Justin, you've said a million times every single snap is valuable for a guy like him learning as a rookie. And you always can feel like he craves that, he craves playing and learning and working through all these hurdles that he has to go through. So what's the sense you get from him about how badly he wants to, even though these last two games don't mean anything in the standings, what's your sense for how much he wants to be on the field and have a chance to play these last two games?
Yeah, I really believe, just from listening to him talk and where he's at, the thing with Justin is he's super tough. So we have to balance that. We got to make sure that he doesn't, hurt himself because he's trying to tough through something, but he's also smart too. And he gets it that we have his best interest. So when he has that ability, it helps. He wants to be out there. He wants to be out there for his teammates. He wants to be out there to be able to help every way he can to help us continue to finish the season strong. He's getting those reps has been really good for him, which I think is great. He's grown in a lot of different ways. So every rep he can get at this point with how it has gone on in this season will be valuable for him for the rest of his career. Different experiences you get, but we want him to be extremely healthy when he's at that point. And I think that's probably, Mike, what we're working through right now is his health, along with Andy's too, because he's hurt as well.
Do you think things would have been different for Justin last week if there was something in the standings on the line?
I don't. No, I don't. I think I know where he's at. I mean, he was trying to do everything he could to, whether it was, in his mind of how he felt just walking around the building to where his mind was when he's out at practice, being able to go through. And sometimes you feel like you can do things and then you get out there and your body just doesn't allow you to. And I think that's probably what he went through. This week will be a true test as well as to the significance of the pain, where he's at, medically, and then where we're at as far as for him being able to get the practice reps. You just kind of combine all three of those together.
Next question, Hub.
Hey, Matt, there's so much noise out there this time of the year. I don't get what people focus on sometimes, but a ton of debate and chatter about Ifedi starting over Borum last Sunday in Seattle. Can you tell us, why you made that decision? And if Tevin is able to go on the left side, which one of them will start on the right side this week?
Yeah, no, I understand the question. And I know it's, you get to these points right now of the season. And especially when we're not able to make the playoffs. And I understand everybody's going to have their own opinion, and there's a dynamic to who each player is and the roles that they've come into. I think if you look at Hub Ifedi and where he was last year here as a guard, and then we changed him to tackle, and the way he finished in such a great way was neat to see. And then coming into this year, we have two young draft picks that we got for the future, but Ifedi's still the starter, and he came in and I thought that he was playing well. And then he got hurt. And, on a much shorter time frame, it happened to Andy too, with Andy and Justin earlier in the season. But, that him being out for a little while, he's got to now, whether it's conditioning, whether it's technique, not having the playing time, it provided an opportunity for Larry to come in and show us what we thought he could do from what we saw in training camp and really in the OTAs. And I thought Larry did a great job of being able to take advantage of that opportunity. We felt really good with him in there. And then obviously we had some injuries on the O-line. We had some COVID protocol that went down. And so it creates some shuffling. And there's also some, these guys all individually, they put in their own time and effort in trying to get back and trying to, play for the team and their teammates. And so there's more dynamics than just, play this guy or play that guy. And that's what we deal with as coaches, is making sure we deal with that. So looking back to last week, we had the ability with having a Fetty up and ready. What a great opportunity for him to come back in and show what he can do. And so every week is a little bit different, and they all have their reasons to it at different positions. So that's kind of why we did that last week. We'll continue to evaluate each position every week. And I think I go back to, we have depth there. We like that. And that's kind of why we did what we did last week. And now we'll always continue to evaluate, and we'll see where that goes this week.
2 more. Next question, Dan Weeder.
Matt, not to overblow it or not to downplay it, do you have any sense for what Sunday afternoon in Seattle did for this group as far as fuel for the end run here?
Yeah, I think that for the players and the coaches that are in this building, we all understand that, when you're losing games like we were, we always talk about just get that win, just get that one win. And sometimes if you just focus on that one win, it never comes. You got to just focus on execution and playing well. And I think that for us, just coming into the building the next day or flying home that night, that's why we do what we do, to be able to win the game together, because we did it all 3 phases. So that helps. Now we understand, okay, they're going to give us 2 games yet to play. We know we can't make the playoffs. Now let's finish strong. Let's show everybody who we are. And even when things aren't easy or things aren't great, we still finish, and no one can take that away from us. And I think that speaks to character of players and futures. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I think the players have done an amazing job of accepting that and wanting to do it. And then they show it. They don't just talk about it and then not do it on game day. They're doing that, and the coaches are coaching hard. And when that's the case, I'd rather much have it that way than a team that just decides to fold up shop and not play the rest of the year.
Last question, Mark Grody.
Hi, Matt. Just a follow-up to Hub's question on the offensive line. Do you expect that if Tevin Jenkins and Larry Bourne were both healthy, that they would start against the Giants on Sunday?
Again, we're working through all that. I think there's a dynamic between those guys. I do really like the way that they're playing, and then there's also a dynamic with the Fetty and where they're at. And so we evaluate these guys when you have depth of how the weeks go and the games go. And that's all they can do is try to make that hard on us. For us as coaches, that's our job. And we gotta be able to make those decisions, and we'll do that, each week as we go at different spots.